Hello guys, and welcome to this episode of Web Trip. Today we are interviewing Morgan, which is a core developer for GNOland. Hi Morgan, thank you to be here for this Web Trip interview. Let's get started, and could you please introduce yourself for me?
Hi Paula, I'm Morgan. I work as a software engineer at GNOME. I'm sort of working on making a programming language, which sounds like a sort of very complicated kind of thing, but actually I just find it quite fun. I live in Turin. That's the introduction.
Okay, working on the programming language and working in Turin. So if you had to explain your job to a kid, you said, like, I'm working on this new programming language. Like, how would you explain it?
As always, like it's a bit tough to kind of explain anything that you're doing in the Web3 and blockchain. Because I'm working on a programming language, the way I'd put it is that whenever you want to build something which is like, imagine like a mechanical device, like a bike, a car, or a plane, even, right? You're going to have to build like many different parts, and then you're going to have to assemble them together, right? And in order to do that, you need to sort of have tools to do the job, right? You're going to need, to assemble the parts. For instance, you're going to need a screwdriver or a drill. Then you're going to need a machine that creates the metal pieces. You're going to need all kinds of tools to be able to actually, do the job of building, right? What I see myself as doing is that I'm building the tools to build stuff, but in the digital world, right? Mm-hmm. I'm making up like the screwdrivers, the Allen keys, all these kind of tools to actually be able to build digital world, and not just the digital world, but because that already exists, right? But it's specifically a digital world which is about creating communities. And one, I guess, peculiar thing about the tools that I'm building is that, to anyone who comes up to me and says, can I have the tools you're building? I don't just say, yeah, here's the tool, but I say, oh, also, if you can make it better, here's how I made the tool itself, right? Mm-hmm. So that's how I would explain it.
I think it's a beautiful analogy and comparison with like building actually something from scratch and helping the other, the fisherman metaphor about I'm not only giving you the fish, I'm giving you like the cane, but I'm explaining you how to build the cane. So I think it was a beautiful, summary of it for maybe a 5-10 years old. So great. So could you please present a project that you're currently working on and that you're passionate about?
So one of the things that I worked on, for instance, on the GNOME project, mm-hmm. is that once you have like something set up like this, with like so you have a few functions set up in the program. What I'm working on is that if you go into this directory, you can just go dot, and it will show you already like what things what sort of functionality this program that you're writing on has. And if I go here and add some documentation, like adds a number to the A variable, mm-hmm. and let's save this, then I can show what's the documentation for the add function, and this will show up. So this is an example of what I worked on. Okay. Because I'm a programmer, we tend to work a lot on the program and the command line first. But this is sort of like some groundwork that I've been working on that will then sort of lead to what the full documentation even on the web that exists for normal code programs like this one, for instance, right? So the function gets translated to an online interface. And this is kind of unlike what happens in many other ecosystems in the Web3 space. So kind of a bit technical, but this is like one of the ways that that sort of eases software development in Web3 that we're trying to do at GNOland.
But I mean, you look super passionate about like when you're looking at GNOME, so that's actually amazing. But can you give maybe a concrete example of what you could do when you're building, this language that you're explaining? For a less technical audience, maybe
yeah, sure.
Like, what can you do with what you just did?
What we want to enable is to have a system where you can create like Web3 software more easily, but we also kind of want to expand like what are the areas where Web3 is actually working on. And what I mean by that is that, for instance, one of the sort of areas which we want GNOME to shine in, for instance, is in social networks, for instance. Mm-hmm. This is something that, Territory is also working on, right, on this front. So we want to have a blockchain that can do complex applications like social networks. These already often exist, right? But maybe like specialized blockchains which only do that thing, right? Well, what we are creating is like a general programming language that can do all of this, right? But what we kind of also envision as other ideas that could be done on GNOME are things like, what if we want to do like a Wikipedia, like a version of Wikipedia that was actually like managed by a decentralized community rather than sort of being very very like even though Wikipedia is a great project, it's still sort of ultimately controlled by the Wikimedia Foundation, right? So what if we wanted to decentralize that, or decentralize, for instance, the creation of dictionaries? We want to decentralize the process of creating knowledge, and blockchains can really be a foundational part in that.
I really appreciate the sharing knowledge and having decentralized encyclopedia. I think that's very, very beautiful. And social media as well, but personally to me, it's more noble. So basically, you're building all the infrastructure that's going to support this next generation of
exactly.
Of decentralized sharing. So beautiful.
Hopefully in a few years, once we sort of get all of this ball rolling, most people I know like that are working with me are also kind of wanting, okay, once we have this set up, I really want to build cool stuff on it, right? Right now we're still in the part where we kind of have to dive deep into technical details. So it's actually even kind of hard to sort of say people, hey, we're actually going to build something that is going to be really, really cool, right? But it's kind of hard to communicate how that is in reality to somebody which is not technical, which is kind of a challenge, I guess, also for this interview, right?
It's a kind of the goal of the interview as well. It's to show people that, it might seem a bit like blurry and like techy, but at the end of the day, like, you are going to build something out of it, which will be useful for humanity, and that you are actually a human yourself. Like it's that's kind of the goal as well. But and I think that's also a lot of frustration coming about, like, I cannot explain what I'm doing to people. People won't understand what I'm doing. So
they think I'm in here just because the crypto space money, right? And I like personally, I don't care about that part, right?
Yeah, that's funny. That's actually...
It's not that I don't care about money, but I don't care about the whole speculation part that's happening in the crypto world.
Yeah, and I think you're not the only one. Like, and actually, that's interesting because so we asked every interviewee, to create a question for the next interviewee, and the question was actually super to this point. It was,
what the fuck are you doing here? No, what are you doing in the crypto landscape? It's just more of a joke. Because the crypto landscape has evolved a lot since we entered it, when was that? 5 or 6 or 7 years ago, something like that. It was way more punk and anarchist than it is today because, it went mainstream, and the whole people who make the crypto space are not the same anymore. And it used to be even more radical before. So, I think it's tough. Well, not tough, but it's weird for everyone because it's changing pretty quickly.
I mean, the thing is that it's still a sector which has, like there's a lot of money being put into research and development, like, it's happening at GNOME. And that is good because it means that there are many people that sort of realize that, like, this sort of industry has been completely hyped up and pumped up for many, many years, often, without any real reason, right? With the problem of meme coins and pump and dump schemes that have happened over and over again. But ultimately, like, there are some sort of real real sort of problems that the crypto world is trying to address, and it's going to take some time before we get to having crypto in our worlds having a meaningful and positive impact. Right now, the first applications that have been used for Bitcoin are what for many people are not good ones, like financial speculation. But even before that, like even before Bitcoin in the crypto world was financial speculation, it was used for like the black market and the legal market, right? Which might say, okay, so it's just for that, and it's like actually not. It's to create a world where the money that you have in your bank account is not just a fake number which is decided on by your government. It's actually something which has a real value, which is actually closer to gold than it is to euros or dollars, right? So what the fuck am I doing here? So as I said, I'm not more on the financial part, but I am on the sort of like, what if we created like online communities where it was simply just not possible for Elon Musk to come in one day and say, hey, this is mine now. I bought it for billions of dollars and I can do whatever I want to it. But it's not just about censorship. It's about, even like, how does the platform make money, right? It's just turned from one day to the next to being a subscription model, which still has a lot of advertising. And it's still all fundamentally like an industry, the social media industry, an industry which is based on, you must spend the most amount of time here so we can show you the most ads and generate the most profit, right? And collect the most data about you. And there seems like, there are some attempts at creating a different model in this, like the Fediverse, right? With Mastodon and similar platforms. But we kind of need also other solutions, I think, other than that, because even that has shown some limitations, right? Even say on the fact that, if the problem, for instance, is censorship, because it's still federated, right? If on an instance something controversial is happening and the government doesn't like it, the government can still say, the server's mine now. You can't say this anymore. Something that in blockchain cannot happen. So that is, I think, the kind of the value that we're creating.
That's also very close, to the open source community values. And I mean, there is a strong relationship between open source and blockchain folks. Could you maybe touch a little bit on that and tell me what exactly inspired you in the open source community?
Ever since I became like, when I sort of, I became a programmer as by being self-taught. I started like, just working on some small projects and doing some things when I was around 12. And I sort of immediately jumped onto making my projects open source because it's always a sort of something that I really, really like. I was I was introduced to Linux at a very young age, and I'm still using Linux, right? For instance, I think the open source world is very fascinating because I see it a bit as like quote unquote academic research. And what I mean by that is that, when we're doing software development, right, in closed companies, what we're actually doing is often that we are, as engineers, encountering problems that are happening. But if we're working like in a closed source environment, then, whatever we do is under a no disclosure agreement, and we cannot tell anyone about, the way that we implement the solution. Or worse than that, the company may say, actually, that's really, really smart. I'll tell you what, I'll make a patent about it. And now no one can use that idea for another 10 years, right? Which is garbage. And because patents actually were served to we're sort of intended to, foster innovation, but what they're doing is actually doing the exact opposite. And on the other hand, we have open source, right? Which is a complete contradiction to this, which is just saying, whatever you do, whatever sort of new problems you encounter, you publish everything that you do online, because other people are going to encounter the same problems. And so with this, we can actually achieve sort of an evolution of the industry, an evolution of, what is actually possible with computers, right? Mm-hmm. It's not by just, waiting for Apple to waltz along and come with the next revolution, right? Mm-hmm. what has big tech done for us? Artificial intelligence, which is like a really powerful tool, but has been turned like into sort of being like a way that is supposed. We always been thinking like, okay, yeah, machines will take the dull and boring jobs, right? And the first time we start hearing about artificial intelligence, the thing that it's actually doing for us is taking away the creation of art, right? Like that. I think that's kind of ironic because we're supposed as humans to like doing things like art. Making art is not a dull job, right?
I think it's a very, very wide debate. And Nikola Tesla used to actually confront the idea of like technology and development and the idea of like human progress. Like, okay, this is like next technological advancement, but is this technology is making humanity progress as a civilization and as a whole? And that's also always, I think, kind of the question. And it's always about how we use the tool. It's never really And
exactly.
And what I like about open source, and that's what you were saying, is that it's always giving anyone the ability to go back and to go further. And this is actually this process of documentation, which I think can keep us out of, this dystopia that you were a bit talking about. But we're talking about that, like when we talk about Web3, we're talking about AI a bit, and all the technology supporting Web3. What is your utopia, like best case scenario? And what is your dystopia when we, entertaining this technology becoming a more mainstream part of our life?
Okay, so my utopia is that we're sort of able to put Web3 on the right track, with what I think it can do for humanity. So creating online communities which are sort of capable of organizing themselves, working as sort of offline communities do and used to do. Right now, I think we have an imbalance, for instance, where we have, like, let's say even when talking about unions, right? It used to be the case that because people used to work in the same physical location, that it was very sort of easy to set up to sort of talk to each other and what you're doing and create an association with like a union, which is capable of talking and put yourself in a contractual power with whoever you're working with. But right now, what we're seeing is that the gig work economy is sort of creating like environments where workers are scattered around and not really able to communicate amongst themselves. What I think blockchain can do is to help recreate these communities in an online space, one that they are actually self-managing, and better than that, also create like online tools and services which are not necessarily controlled by a single organization, but they're actually controlled by the people who make a living off of it, right? So I sort of see like the utopia is a world where we have like online communities based on blockchains and based on democratic processes. We shift from the current world where your only option when to use the internet is to sell your personal data and privacy to companies, to one where even if that's still happening, you have a choice between doing that or not, right? If you still want to participate in online community, I see a dystopia, one where like the big technology corporations just keep on retaining the power they currently have, and even furthering it to becoming more powerful than nation states as they currently are, basically.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Creating a system where you are forced to give up your privacy and personal data to these organizations who know everything about you. And even if blockchain is a part of that, is still fully controlled by these big corporations, where it is exclusively used, for instance, as an economical tool with, for instance, like the same problems of fiat currency, right? Imagine like a blockchain that, where there is a single party which is still able to create inflation at will, right?
That's not really a dystopia. It's currently happening, but
yeah,
it's called CBDC.
Oh, how much it's close to reality, huh?
I think it's very important to have people like you thinking about this and working on this. And I think we are I mean, we are a lot of people that doesn't want this kind of, that don't want, this kind of system to be implemented. And same thing in the AI community that don't want AI to go this way and to be in the hands of like single or maybe two model provider. Like, it's kind
because I talked about AI before, like, yeah, you're right. Let me just say this, like, there is like by the big companies this intention, this push towards creating like these huge models which take enormous amount of computation, which cannot reasonably sort of be recreated by individual people. But what I was pleasantly surprised to find out is that there is actually a very big push on the open source community to create open source models, which can do things with computers that we all have, and they're actually like pushing AI further and trying to make it a decentralized, like a democratic tool.
But Llama, I think, is doing that. The model, it's called Llama, if I'm not mistaken. But I thought it was Meta, that was Facebook Meta. What was the model? And I was a bit confused. I was like, okay.
I mean, often they are open sourcing it, but to achieve the capabilities that they have in their social networks, they still require, right? Other than immense amounts of data, which is obviously closed, they also require a lot more computation power. What the open source community is doing is, for instance, that it's optimizing these models, right? Because the Meta and the Google and Facebook always have the luxury of saying we can have as many servers as we want, so we don't have to care about optimization. Well, the open source community is making a big push to say, okay, how can a person with $300 set up sort of a rig to do good machine learning, right? Without owning the capital of Meta, right?
It's always feeling like it's a David against Goliath fight, and whatever the industry we're joining, like we're gonna have like this kind of thing. But that's a lot. But I think the only hope is in open source and in people actually coming together, and that's hope. And talking about all of this utopia, dystopia, and vision that you were mentioning, what will be your advice to the youth for the upcoming years when it comes like to job, when it comes to technologies, when it comes to even their life? I don't know. So imagine yourself being a grandpa, your Morgan grandpa. And, hey, my dear, what is your advice?
I think, to anyone working in technology, like, my advice is, like, if you're working as a programmer, the most important thing you do for me is always like work on project after project after project, right? Don't like try to spend, 1 year learning a programming language, just making small things and then sort of trying to find a job. Rather, just try to sort of work on something small, but make something that would be useful to you, right? And then work on that after that to sort of, as soon as you start working, you're going to start get more ideas of what to do, right? And I think approaching like programming as a sort of creative process is very, very important, because that is the way that we can get like good ideas and good new stuff, right? It's not by just making a list of requirements and following them, right? That's important too. That's part of the engineering process, but you got to have a lot of the creativity in order to make actual progress in the industry. That's my advice to other programmers.
That's great advice. I mean, I mean, that's really great advice. And even if you're a creative, an artist, an engineer, whatever the industry, if you have to be creative, like looking in many directions and taking inspiration in many, many different area, coding language or whatever artistic movement, or it's always great. It's always great.
I'm sort of like a bit video game enjoyer, and specifically like I love Nintendo video games, right? Because I've always enjoyed them as a child, and I still do enjoy them from time to time. And I remember reading about Shigeru Miyamoto, which is the creator of the Zelda Mario series, like talking, even about how he sort of created like the series that he did, like Zelda or Pikmin. And Often it was just, doing experience, even as coming back to his experiences as a child and going back into nature and exploring, right? That is also key part of it. Like, try to get many inputs from, what's around you, including like books, but also, not just books, try to make many real life experiences, even on things that are completely unrelated to your job, to, what you want to do. So you can sort of create connections that nobody's ever thought of before, right? Nobody ever thought that, doing hikes in nature could be something that could be translated to a very fun video game in the 80s, right? Until somebody did it and they created a hugely successful game about it. He wouldn't even have created that, right? If he wasn't hard at work and at creating some projects that being created, right? So the creative process creates more creation.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do about it is to just get started, like doing some very small things and then getting more ideas.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Morgan. It's very beautiful advice to the youth, including yourself and myself, because yes, we're still young. Yeah. So do you have a question to pass along to the next interviewee? It might be in the web. I think the next interviewee is in the Web3 space. What inspired you to be in programming? What inspired you to create, right? If we're not talking about programming, right? What inspired you to start on the journey that you're currently on? That's something which I'm always curious to hear about from other people, right? What drives you, right? Yeah, little seeds that bring you where you are. That's but Morgan, thank you very much for this interview. It was great to have you. Very interesting conversation.